Okay, I'm trying a different kind of style of video. Uh, I'm gonna be talking about like the the reasons, you know, why you like what you may want to consider before getting a motorcycle. Because I feel like I talk to a lot of people just like day to day, and they just think it's kind of it would just be cool to have one, and I mean it's pretty cool having one, but the thing is a lot of people get motorcycles and then they don't really like ride them. They'll ride them like a few times and then just put it in their garage and not really, mess with it kind of after that, and they end up selling it. And that's why like if you look for a used motorcycle, you can usually find one for, I mean, a decent amount, and it'll only have like 1,000 miles on it or something like that. But I think thing number one is you kind of want to factor in like the cost of the motorcycle itself. I mean, that's obviously something that you have to consider, but it's not just the cost of the actual motorcycle. You got to take into account the gear that you need, like when you get the motorcycle. Like for example, a helmet. You're even just for like a beginner helmet, you're probably gonna end up spending about $200. And then like you get to the high end stuff like this one. This is a Shoei. It's a Tech Air 3, I believe. This one's gonna run you about $500-600, but it's worth it because it's comfortable and it's pretty quiet. And then you gotta think about like your motorcycle jacket, your motorcycle boots. So just right there, helmet, jacket, and boots, possibly pants, you're looking at an extra $1,000 just right there, besides the motorcycle itself. And what I always recommend, like with people who are getting their first motorcycle, I always say go for used. Don't get a new one. That's just my opinion. That's what I did. But it doesn't really make, it's like your first car being like a brand new car off the lot. You know what I mean? You're gonna be scared to drive it, and then you're gonna make mistakes with it, and you might end up damaging it. But when you have a used motorcycle, if you drop it in a parking lot or something, it's not as soul crushing as dropping a brand new $20,000-$30,000 motorcycle. And yeah, used is usually better. It's cheaper. If it has issues, it might be easier, finding parts and fixing it. It's just a good place to start, in my opinion. So, I mean, that factors into the cost thing. Okay, so the second point I had for a thing you want to consider, like if you're getting a motorcycle, think of like your reasoning, like why do you want a motorcycle? And this is really gonna help just for like your motivation, like a lot of guys I talk to, their reasoning is they just want to seem cool. And you got to think about it like, if you're uncool, just getting a motorcycle isn't gonna make you cool, if that makes sense. It's like multiplying by zero. Like if you're weird, just because you get a motorcycle, it's not suddenly gonna make you cool. Because I'm weird, just because I have a motorcycle, that didn't not make me weird. But yeah. And then it's just like, sure, it's a conversation starter, but if you can't hold a conversation just because without a motorcycle, just because you have a motorcycle, isn't gonna make you. It's not gonna make it easier to have conversations. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, sure, you could start a conversation, but if you can't hold one, you can't hold one without it. Like, you may want to work on yourself like more, and then get the motorcycle, if that makes sense. Because another thing is, like, a lot of guys, they want to get a motorcycle so they think like women are gonna like them just because they have a motorcycle. And I mean, at least in my experience, I've never had a woman come up to me and be like, "Oh, nice motorcycle. You want to hang out or something?" It's never happened. Usually it's gonna be, I mean, that could just be me. That could just be me. But I've never had it happen. Usually, like, when you do have people come up to you, it's other men who are interested in getting a motorcycle, and they'll usually have like questions about just like the process of it, how much it costs, like the insurance and everything. But yeah, no women, not yet, not at least not for me. All right, so point number 3 is gonna be your motivation to ride. And this one's really important. This is really what's gonna, stop you from just leaving the motorcycle sitting in your garage and like rotting away or something. And I mean, it may be something you have to force yourself to do, but you wanna have a good, like, motivation. Some people just use it just to clear their head. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but you should probably get a therapist instead of going out and spending a bunch of money on a motorcycle. Because it's probably, I mean, realistically, a therapist is probably gonna be cheaper than getting like a $10,000 motorcycle and riding it to clear your head or whenever you're pissed off or something. And you really shouldn't be riding if you're not in a good state of mind, because you may make a mistake, and if you make a mistake, that might cost you your life. But yeah, you should have a good reason for it. One reason for me is that it's good on gas. That's the best thing about it. This motorcycle right here gets 40 miles to the gallon, so it's pretty nutty. Usually I just ride this to work, and whenever I want to go out and get coffee or something like that, or if I want to go to the beach or something, it's good on gas. That's probably the biggest benefit. Like, if that's one of your reasons for getting a motorcycle, that's a solid reason. In my opinion, that's a solid reason. And that's something like most people don't even consider when they think about a motorcycle, like, oh, I could save a bunch of money on gas. But yeah, just have a good reason, because when it rains or when it's super hot, you're gonna be tempted, like, I'm not gonna ride the motorcycle today, I'm just gonna take the car. And I mean, if that's what you wanna do, go ahead and do it, but just remember, like, you're kind of wasting money. That could have just only had a car instead of getting a motorcycle. So another thing to consider if you're looking to get a motorcycle is the boundaries to actually obtaining one. So when people want to get a motorcycle, they just think costs, but you have to consider like actually getting your license. And I mean, if you want to be legit, you got to get your license. You're gonna need insurance, because believe it or not, a lot of guys, it's pretty difficult getting a license. It's not as easy as just taking the DMV test and then that's it. You know what I mean? It's not just a written test and that's it. It's so, at least in my state, and maybe you probably want to check from state to state, but at least in California, what you have to do is you have to take a written test, and then you're going to have to either complete the DMV course, which is pretty difficult, I'll be honest. I know a lot of people who failed it. Me, myself, I failed it. I took it one time and I failed it. Or your other option is you have to pay the money to take a motorcycle class. And most of those motorcycle classes are probably gonna cost you anywhere from $400 to $500. So just keep that in mind. I'm trying to remember how many questions were on the DMV test. I think it was only like 15 or something like that. It was a little bit. But another thing with the DMV is if you have a Class C or a Class A, if you want to get your motorcycle license, you're gonna have to retake everything. Like if you haven't got your Class C or your Class A within a year, you're gonna have to retake all those tests, all the written tests at least. Luckily with mine, I got kind of lucky. I had taken my Class A in the same year I was getting my motorcycle license. Or I got the permit and then I got the license. And then that's the cool thing, like with your motorcycle permit, if you do just do the written test, you can get the permit and you legally can ride during the day on the street. So with the permit, you can't take it on the freeway, you can't ride at night, and you can't have a passenger. Those are the limitations to the permit. But I mean, for me, you know, that was good enough, because I was just riding my old motorcycle to work, which was like, I don't know, like 7 miles down the street. So I was only taking the street. Yeah, you know, and then you have to factor in insurance and stuff. If you're young, if you're under like, I don't know, I think it's like 25 or something like that, your insurance is going to be high as hell on a motorcycle. And then with motorcycles, you want to have like collision and like total coverage or anything, because if you crash this or you get hit, the bike is probably going to be totaled, like realistically, if you don't have the proper protection on it. In most, you know, times, if it's not totaled, it's going to have a bunch of damage, and it's going to be a hassle to fix it. You know, if you don't have insurance, you're going to be paying all that out of pocket, and you know, you might just have to, you know, get rid of your bike, and that's going to suck. And then the final thing I had is, you know, actually finding the motorcycle, and that's going to be pretty difficult, especially if you're like picky, you know, because there's a lot of different types. You know, you got cruisers, you got your sports bikes, you got your ADVs, and then there's different, you know, retailers who sell motorcycles. And then you got to think, like, are you going to go used? Are you going to go new? It's just a lot of things to consider. And then the biggest thing is obviously the cost. With a new motorcycle, it's going to be more expensive, but you know it's probably not going to have any issues. And then if it does have issues, you're probably going to get a warranty with it. So if anything pops up, you can just take it back to the dealer and get it serviced. So that's one positive to a new one. But when you get a used one, you never know, like, if the previous owner, if they were keeping up with the maintenance, or, you know, they might have just rode it hard as hell, you know what I mean? They might have been doing fucking burnouts off of every light, you know, putting a lot of, you know, wear on the engine. So the bike might only have, you know, like 1,000 miles, but if they're fucking doing burnouts in a parking lot, you know, it's gonna be comparative like a fucking like a 10,000 mile bike or something, you know? So that's kind of a downside to getting a used one. But the obvious benefit to a used one is that the cost is gonna be cheaper. And then another thing to consider is, like, if you're getting a motorcycle, if you're not paying cash for it, banks consider motorcycles like luxury items. So the interest rates on them are going to be way higher than a car, per se. You know, for example, because, I mean, I don't know why it's considered that. Maybe it's because, you know, banks don't think it's like a necessity to have a motorcycle. I mean, which it really isn't. So, you know, you talk to a lot of guys who finance their motorcycle, their interest rates on a financed motorcycle will be usually in the double digits, you know, like, I think like the best interest rate you can get on a motorcycle is probably gonna be like a 8 or a 7% or something like that. I mean, that's just right now, interest rates are kind of high, but from what I've seen, like, for a new motorcycle, you're looking at like an 8. Best case scenario for credit is like really good. And then I've heard, you know, guys having 25% interest rates on a motorcycle, which is crazy, because most of the time that's on like a $40,000 Harley or something. And then the worst thing is, like, you know, they don't ride it. In my opinion, that's like the saddest that's like the saddest thing there is, you know, a motorcycle that doesn't get ridden. All right, so that's gonna conclude the video. Those are all my, you know, like, things to consider for a newer person or someone who's looking to get into it. Thanks for checking out my video. You know, feel free to comment. My channel has grown a lot, especially in the past like few months. I'm trying to branch out and do a few different things. I still upload stuff I like, and just like the Overwatch stuff. I know that might not be for everybody, but, you know, I still play the game. I have a love-hate relationship with that game. I played it, you know, since it released. But if it's not your thing, you don't have to watch it. I totally understand. But yeah, again, you know, thanks for checking out the video. If you guys want to see more stuff like this, just like stuff I'm like thinking about, or if you have like suggestions for a video, feel free to comment. I really appreciate if you guys subscribe, because this is a hobby at the end of the day. Like, realistically, I don't think, you know, I don't really expect to make a career out of this, but who knows, you know, maybe if I get like a 10 million subscribers or something, you know, I'll do it full time. I doubt it. But yeah, thanks for checking out the video, and see you guys later.